Hey everybody, welcome to book club. Tonight we are going over some of my absolute favorite chapters. They are 8 and 9, and I have gotten so much out of this. So I hope that everybody had a chance to go over it, read it, and possibly reread it because there was so much information in here. I listened to it and then went back and then read it and listened to it just so I can get all of like those tips that he was giving. They're rock solid. So chapter 8 starts off with one more question to ask ourselves. And if there's anything I've learned in this business, it's the power of questions. And he says it's like an onion. You just start peeling back layer after layer. And the more questions you ask, the more answers you get, and the more information you have on the situation to get a better answer. So asking those questions is key. So on the first page, he says, most people never take control of their thoughts because they don't ask the right questions. So they have a flawed belief of what their thinking should be because your feelings feed your thoughts. And if you don't have the right questions to get all of the right answers, you're not going to have like a stable environment. You have to ask the right questions. He also says, and I thought this was such a great thing, that Navy SEALs are taught to ask the question, what in this situation can I control immediately? So you can ask the wrong question and have self-doubt, like what could go wrong? Like those are kind of the same type of questions, yet in two completely different contexts. So the way that the Navy SEALs ask it is what can I control instead of what can go wrong. So that was really cool to see how he just transitioned a couple words and it completely changes the dynamic of the question. And what should I fear and worry about? You have nothing to fear and worry about if you're asking the right questions and keeping it positive and light. So I highlighted so much. So I'm just going to go through and just talk and touch on certain things that I highlighted. This one stuck out to me on page 105 because I talk about this all the time. He says, your inner voice can be your most vocal critic, and self-accountability means there's no place to hide. I talk about that inner voice all the time. But if there's anything I've learned, there's two parts of your brain. One is the one that you have to listen to, and the bottom is the caveman brain. Doesn't work, doesn't need us right now. That is the fight or flight. Ignore that inner voice. Keep to the prefrontal cortex, which is your brain, the logical thinking brain, and you won't have that issue. But if you do have those vocal critics, because we all do, we're human, that's a very human thing to do, dismiss it. Counteract with a positive and dismiss it immediately. Then he goes into the onion scenario, and then he goes into a list of questions, which is going to be one of my questions for tonight. But he says, remember, one answer can create big changes. And he wrote a list of 41 questions, and I got through a bunch of them. And he says, I want you to sit and ponder about these. You don't have to answer them immediately. The ones that take longer to answer are the ones that make you the most uncomfortable, which are the ones that are going to make you grow the quickest. So going through each of these, there was a lot brought to my attention, a lot of things that I didn't realize were on my mind or my thought process, but I challenge y'all to go through each one of these, and it's going to take a series of time, but go through one a day or 2 or 3 a day and just ask yourself that question and let it sink in and write it down on a post-it and ask yourself. And he says, revisit it 2, 3, 4, 12 times a day. It's totally fine. That's what's going to make you successful, is reading the questions and answering the way that you want to instead of impulsively. So there's so many questions here. I mean, what's one more thing I can do to calm myself down today? That was one that spoke out to me very loudly. I refer to the word calm all the time as kind of like my peace word. When I have those racing thoughts, when that inner critic comes in, I shut it down and I say the word calm, and it instantly brings me peace. So that was one that I kind of could answer right away, but it took me weeks of practice, even before I had this book, of how I was going to respond to the word calm and how I would calm myself down in a stressful situation. It was not my strong point for several years. So it's definitely a work in progress, but these questions are fire, and just going through them, I'm going to leave the list there because we don't have time to touch on all of them. But he says, just like I said before, the best answers will be most difficult for you to address. Loved this entire passage. He says, if you want to be average, if you're happy where you're at because you're comfortable, scared, or lazy, and you don't want to know how to make your life better, then don't ask the questions that lead to your growth. Nobody can force you to do anything you do not want to do. That was powerful. So that's on page 109. And I was like, that's a whole word right there. Going into chapter 9, this chapter stuck out to me. I'm all about goal setting. I'm all about what I can do next. And there was a lot of key tricks in this chapter that I never really put 2 and 2 together. He says, goals are your energy. Goals are a life force. Goals are a state of being. Is the transference of energy into action. So you take that energy that is your goal and you put it into action. They go together. You can't have a goal without an action. You can't have action and not have a goal at the end. There's something that's going to drive and force you to do better or to reach that goal. And that is the energy that you will create. He also says, instead of playing defense, the key is to proactively fill your mind with the right kind of thoughts about your goals. So if you have these negative thoughts going in, like you want to have $1 million, but you think in your inner voice, that inner critic's telling you, there's no way you can get that $1 million. Like, you're a fool. Like, what are you talking about? That is what we don't want. You have to be positive. You have to keep proactively filling your mind that you are going to do this, and that is your end goal. Keep that sight like wide-eyed. Do not let it go to the wayside. Figure out what you're willing to tolerate to meet your goals. That's a big one. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to do different? Where are you willing to grow? Are you going to be coachable along the way? Those are things you have to ask yourself, what you're willing to tolerate to meet it. He also says standards are actions linked to the thoughts you have related to your goals. You have to have a thought process. Creating your goals without corresponding standards is a waste of your time. That's again, a whole word. He has so much in this chapter right here to push you forward out of your comfort zone. The other thing is you can't always control the outcome of your goals. So go in knowing that from the very beginning, and it's not going to be a surprise at the end. On page 114, he says, the other reason I believe many systems don't work is that they're often too complicated. How many times have you been told, don't reinvent the wheel? Follow the successful people. They've done it. Follow what they're doing. You don't need to create new systems, new processes, new wording, whatever it may look like. Don't overcomplicate what you're striving for. Stick to the basics. It works every single time. Creating goals in your peak state. So this was when it was like mind blowing for me. I never realized what I was doing, how I was thinking was going to interfere with my outcome of my goals. So if you're not having the best day, even if I ask my kids, I use a traffic light system. Are you having a green day, a yellow day, or a red day? If you're having a yellow day, don't answer this question. Don't set a goal. If you're having a red day, definitely don't set a goal. But you can only create your best goals when you're at your peak state. And to get there, not only is it mentally, but it's physically too. If you're not moving your body, getting that blood flowing, you are not in peak state. I always have my best ideas walking around my neighborhood. I do my training, walking around my neighborhood. It's my peace time. I just put headphones in and I walk. But that is when I have like these aha moments. And I never realized that that is because I'm spiking those endorphins. I'm putting my body into action. Your brain is working as well as your body, and they go together. Such an important key factor. Move your body if you want to create the best thoughts, the best thought processes to lead to your goals. Your mind always moves and what it's most familiar with. So if you don't change your thought process, it's just going to keep going. All of those negative things are just going to keep cycling like a hamster wheel. Change it. Change the thought process. It's going to go with the easier route. Go change it, pivot, go a different route. And then compelling reasons drive your goals on page 115. Compelling reasons will give you the energy and resiliency to push through the difficult times so that you can reach your goals. Compelling reasons translate into goals you're passionate about. So this is something we talk about a ton. We just did a call on this not too long ago. You have to find your passion. What is your purpose? Why do you want this goal? And you're not going to be able to unless you put emotions into what your goal is. So he was giving some examples here about, he wants to cure a disease that his mom passed away from. Like that's a real good goal. Like, it hit you deeply. You have passion behind it. That is a purpose. Like, it's a driving force. But he also went into what they were talking about at convention is armed with a compelling reason. I started going to the gym, eating better, reducing my stress, and adopted an overall healthier lifestyle. That's the key word right there. We're changing lifestyles. And that's what we need to focus on. When you have a goal, you have to change your lifestyle to meet that goal. You want to project a lifestyle to help others meet their goals. It's a lifestyle change that's going to be the energy behind the driving force. And I love this. He says, it's not simply a matter of being more disciplined or more driven. There needs to be an emotional component linked to your goal. That's the compelling motivation that keeps goals from being lethargic burdens. That's what's going to give you that energy. When people are like, I don't really feel like it. That's the fire that you have to find to keep projecting you even on those bad days. He says, if you aren't fired up, then you'll just have a difficult time fighting off the distractions that will try to dislodge you from your goal. Keep that passion burning. They say it all the time in the Bible. You have to burn that passion. It's something that is within you. You can't take that from somebody else. It has to be developed. It's inside of you. Your leader can't do it. Your downline can't do it. Your sidelines can't do it. It starts with you. And that's why it's so important to keep that fire burning, because you are going to be what is going to get you past those lethargic burdens. And then he broke it down into two different forms: momentum building goals and life altering goals. And I take Tova's wording all the time. The momentum building goals, they're bite-sized pieces that compound into the life altering goals. So you can't say, today I'm going to have a life altering goal. I'm going to do that. I'm going to lose 100 pounds by next month. You're going to lose 2 pounds by next week. And then 2 pounds the week after. Maybe you'll go up to 5. It's those little momentum goals that keep you in forward movement that's going to compound to the life altering goals. So keep that in mind. If you're putting these gigantic goals on your plate, you're going to fail every time because it's not doable. It's not duplicatable. It's not going to build you in the passion and where you want to go and lead you with the energy that you want to this new goal, because you're going to fail every time. You're not going to meet it fast enough. Set those little goals. You'll meet it every single time. And going in, how's my time? Oh goodness. Okay, I'm going in. So he talks about goals and self-worth, what that means to some people. They put too much on themselves. He says both are integral parts of your self-worth. Unless you're confident in who you are and what you deserve, you'll limit yourself in the goals you think you deserve. Self-worth plays a huge part in achieving your goals. So that's like a whole paragraph on page 118 to 119 that I'd love for you to go back and just reread, because we all have some self issues. We all have some emotions that build up, but it's pushing out of that. That's going to get you to your goal. Gosh, so much in this chapter. There's undeniable power in telling someone discipline and accountability lead to ascension and dominance. That was, wow. Visualizing is critical too. How do you visualize your goals? Is it something you touch? Is it something you envision? Is it something you picture in your head? Is it something tangible that you have printed out? Is it a photo? Think about what speaks to you, because what speaks to me is going to be different for you. Not everybody has the same path to get to their goals, yet we can all have the same goal. It's going to be different every single time. Find what works for you. And I'm just going to end on, he includes his goals that he talks about in repetition every day. He even includes them in his prayers. Repetition is also easier when it's done at the same time of the day. It's creating a habit. It's exactly what we talked about in our last book. If you do it in the morning, if you get up, brush your teeth, say your goal. If you go to sleep, you lay down, you take your supplements, you say your goal. It's the repetitions on the same time of day. So that is what I took away from this chapter. So much that I could go on for days, but I want to open it up. And my first, let me see. I had it written down. So my first question is, what question stood out to you and why? On pages 106, 107, 108. Who's going to take this one? Who wants to take one of these questions?
I can. 6 was one that really spoke to me because it's what part of the situation can I control? I am very known for futuristic thinking. My therapist yells at me all the time. I jump into these scenarios like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And it's like, I catastrophize everything. And I really have to go back on what can I control? That's out of my control. I can't think about that because I can't control it. So definitely going back on just the simple things, what can I control? What can I work on myself to make me better? And just, it's a simple question, but even just the way it's phrased, I feel it's not breaking you down or making you feel any less, but it's what can I improve upon? And I think that's one key thing on every single question in here is it's just a very positive way of looking at it and improving yourself.
Yeah. That was awesome. Anybody else have a question that spoke to them?
I was going to say, it's hard to choose just one. I think so many of these really had me thinking about a lot of things, but I like 37 just because I think that really applies to us in general. But one more thing, what one more thing have I learned in life that I can pass on as a mentor to others? I'm someone who's always wanted mentorship. I've always yearned for that. And I'm always man, if I can get an older woman to just mentor me and pass down wisdom and lessons learned, I so appreciate that. And I want to be that person. I never really had that, but I want to be that person. So it really had me thinking about like, what are some ways to my team or just my friends or even people younger than me, right? Like whoever I am in contact with, what's one more thing that I can add value and a lesson learned, something I went through that taught me something that I can pass on. Because a big part of what we do is mentorship, and a big part of what we do is adding value. So I just feel like that's something that we have to always be thinking about, to have this position of mentorship and leadership, and what can I do to impart this to someone else. So I really like that one.
That was powerful. Thank you so much.
I didn't have a specific question that really stood out to me because there were a lot of them. But the whole idea of what is one more thing I can do to be a better wife? What is one more way to become healthier? So many times we think, oh, I'm a terrible mom. I don't spend time with my kids. I don't do this. I don't do that. Well, what is one thing that you can do? We're going to start having a family game night once a month. I can do once a month, in realizing that it's the small changes that make up to the big ones. Even like this goes into setting goals, but when you set a goal, don't say, oh, I want to be diamond next year. Okay, let me break it down. I want to be ruby this month. Don't do that. Write down things that you can take action on, things that you can see. I'm going to break that goal down further. How many people do I need to reach out to every day? Because that is something you can see. You might not be able to pinpoint exactly when you'll hit ruby, but if your goal is this month, how many people do I need to talk to? How many messages? And you can cross that off your list, and you can feel productive and like you're working towards that goal. You might need to readjust it next month, but it's not just throwing out these ideas of what you want. It's here's actual steps I can take to make this happen.
That was awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. It's those baby steps that compound. It really is.
I agree. And I feel like a theme with all of these is intentionality, just slowing down. And a lot of them are small changes. Just Fallon kind of said what I was, and mindset. Number 7, how is this happening for me and not to me? That's one I've been like introducing to myself lately. Like, what if this is exactly how it's supposed to happen? Like, nothing has gone wrong. I might not enjoy it or it be my favorite, but maybe this is exactly what needed to happen. And that goes along with number 9, one more thing to bring peace. So I think that's been helpful.
And to actually pivot off of that, because was my number 13 was what's one more way I could worry less about the past? So just jumping all that, whether it's in business or personal life, it's like, instead of focusing on what happened last month, what the numbers were, what you got, what you didn't get, or relationship or whatever is going on in your world, worrying less about the past. Sometimes the past could haunt us. It could just creep up on us, or something could trigger it, even within the business or within personal life. And then there we are right back there, right? So worrying less about that, focusing more on the present and being hopeful and prayerful for the future. That one stood out to me most. Like, stop focusing on what happened, what was. It even ties into maybe number 1, what one more thing can I do to show my spouse or partner I love them more? Maybe it's not focusing on what had happened. It's just being more present with your family, with your spouse, with your business, and just keep pushing forward. It is not the easiest thing. This is why these are the questions, right? To challenge us to say, okay, it's in my face for a reason. This is why it's highlighted. And just working on keep pushing forward, looking forward. That cliche, you can't drive looking in the rearview mirror, right? We've heard it 1,000 times, but it's so true. We have to look forward. And that is something that spoke to me. It was hard for me to highlight 1, 13. I mean, I have like, forget it, numerous ones highlighted. It's hard to highlight those things. It's those things that say, okay, you need to pay attention. But it's true in business, friendship, relationship, spouse, even what you did with your kids. No one's the perfect parent. Maybe you failed yesterday. Maybe you just were not your best parenting self yesterday, your most nurturing that you know you can be. It's looking forward to tomorrow. Kids are so gracious, thank the Lord, and you push forward. So that's what I got out of those questions.
So good. I'm gonna move on to question number 2, and we're gonna get vulnerable here. We're all human. So have you ever come up with a goal that you didn't stick to, and why?
Okay, I'll go again real quick. I have had 1,000 goals I set out to do and did not accomplish. I thought I was going to be under Ashley Graham as the next Curve model. I thought I was going to be the next Food Network star. I thought I was going to be, the next recording artist with the best single. I've done a lot of complicated things in my life, none of which I totally achieved, none of which maybe I even followed through with, right? Because that's my own responsibility that I have to take. Maybe it was age, maybe it was circumstance, whatever the case might be, something stopped me time and time again from achieving goals I set for myself. And maybe they're smaller goals. Maybe it's something like, just not drinking alcohol, or maybe it's not, maybe it's going to the gym. I'm gonna go to the gym, right? Like smaller things. I'm going to be more creative with my children. Whether it's big things or small things, I have run the gamut of letting myself down with not maybe following through or being as consistent. And so I could be vulnerable in that space and say that. And something like this community has taught me that consistency really is key. Getting up the next day, having a positive attitude, forging forward, failing forward. It's like my new favorite little phrase. Is it a get out of jail free card? No, but it's something that gives you hope in the morning. So you can keep forging forward. You can keep pushing through. It's not necessarily a failure. If you don't look at it that way, it's a lesson that you could learn and, push through. So whether it's a big thing in your life that you say, I set out to do this and I didn't accomplish it, or it's something small, you could absolutely start again in the morning, start new habits, and they could get accomplished. I truly believe that now.
Yeah, and having knowledge of how to push through, these setbacks that we thought we had. I had lots of goals. There was a lot of things that I wanted to do. If it was, I graduated with interior design. I had all these great ambitions, and then I got pregnant with twins and became a military wife. So, there's lots of things that can deter you. But in this business, I've learned so many tips on, and just personal growth on how we can find the gaps to make things happen. So it's definitely eye-opening. Anybody else have a goal that you didn't stick to? That you didn't stick to, that you failed, doesn't matter, whichever one, and why.
Hey guys, well, my biggest goal, so I got a Peloton just because I was like, next time I'm pregnant, I'm gonna work out. And I totally didn't work out. I just didn't want it bad enough. I was like, whatever, I'm going to get like chunky either way. I haven't gained that much weight. Like, it's fine. So I feel like it really does come down to having a really strong why for our goals, because if you don't, like me and the working out while pregnant, you're just not going to do it.
You couldn't pay me to work out when I was pregnant. I was miserable.
Well, that makes me feel better because you're like the queen of fitness. So I'm glad you told me. I wish I'd known this sooner. I wouldn't have even thought I should. Like, if you're not going to work out pregnant.
Exactly. You can't, no, it's actually destructive. You probably shouldn't.
It was a nice thought.
It was. it's the thought that counts. Okay, just going into our very last question, because everybody is different and I like to hear different goals. How do you visualize your goals? Are you a dream board type person? Are you a photo person? Are you set it on your screen of your phone type person? Or is it something like you need to touch, like he mentioned, going to a car dealership and actually going, sitting, test driving the car that you want? What fuels you?
I'll answer this. All of the above. I have a huge dream board with tons of pictures. I got like the nice photo paper and printed in like high resolution and made these picture collages on PowerPoint. It's a mess, but it's a big wall full of pictures that elicit different goals. And then I have my handy dandy jewels from Amazon that I ordered that sit as little paperweights on my desk. And then I do a lot of visualization during meditation. So all the things.
Yeah, I didn't realize that what I was doing as a gold, senior gold, all of it was visualization, like just taking time to clear my brain. I was dreaming, though. I was thinking positive thoughts. I was thinking of what my life was going to look like, the kind of people I was going to work with in my business, all of it. So we went to the Lexus dealership, sitting in the Lexuses, screensavers on my phone. Like, it all really does matter because you can see yourself there before you are even there. So definitely motivated by all of those things. And I think the dreaming and the thoughts and the thinking was definitely something that was helpful.
I am so happy you said that, because I looked up the nearest Lexus dealer to go test drive one of the Lexuses, because I've made a promise myself that I'm not going to get it until I hit Sapphire. And I am going to go test drive it because I can.
So I'm going to go off what Fallon said. I think my goals, obviously, writing them down, my dreams, all of that, but being able to have it in front of you every day, or where you can see it. But honestly, it's like my reflection on those things, like being able to actually like picture myself in the moment and like emotionally attach myself. That is like what has driven me to a lot of goals. And I even think back to the visualization of it and like reflection. My coach, he was my cross country coach and also my track coach, my pole vaulting coach. And he would tell me before our cross country meets, go get alone, picture your race. What do you want to do? And I really was like, this is so dumb. Like, I hated running, y'all. I only ran because he said it would help me with my pole vaulting. So one day I was like, I'm going to actually do this. So I went out and I got alone and I was thinking about the race, and I literally ran the best time I have ever ran in our race. I medaled. I think I started off in 400 something place, and I ended up coming in at 17th or something. It was weird. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And then I remember him telling me again at the state meet, it was coming down to my last jump to literally win the state championship. And he was like, I was down to my last jump in the pole vault. And he's like, you have to visualize it, Kylie. And it took me back to that time at the race, thinking about it. And I literally was closing my eyes. Okay, what do I need to do? And then I cleared it, and I was like, oh my gosh, anyways, it happened. So with my goals, I've realized imagining myself when you earn the incentives, when you go to convention, going on stage, the Lexus, imagining, oh my gosh, getting it, sitting in it, taking the picture that you get to post, that is what fires me up, and just emotionally connecting myself to whatever the goal or the dream. So I don't know, for me, it's not enough to even just have it on my screensaver or see it. That is something that I have to have, so it triggers, but it's more of my reflection and visualization of achieving it. And in that moment when I say, yes, I've done it, how do I feel? And what does it look like and stuff? That is mine.
I feel fired up listening to you, Kylie. Did you win?
Yeah. Are you talking about the state pole vaulting? Yes, I did. And y'all, if you don't know anything about pole vaulting, you get 3 attempts at each height. And not only was it to win the state championship, it was literally to break the state record. And it was the last jump. And he literally was like, Kylie, just close your eyes and picture it, because it's very technical, you know? And that's what I did. I literally closed my eyes. I was like, okay, you know, plan, do this. And then I cleared it. And the bar, I like remember landing on the mat and looking up, and I was like, it's still there. Thank the Lord. And then I got off the mat, because as long as you're off and it's there. So yes, it was great. He was the best coach ever.
Well, thank you for feeding my belief tonight. I love it. I absolutely love that. Well, I'm going to end it there so we don't go too far over, but thank you everybody for giving your feedback and participating. These chapters were amazing, and I finished the book, so I know what's to come. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 2 chapters. Have a great night.
Skipping next week, I think, is a Ruby retreat. Is that right?
No, next week is Natalie, and then we have.
And the Ruby retreat is after that. I'm like flying us ahead. Sorry. Don't listen to me.
All right. Well, have a great night, everybody.